Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Movie Reviews and Storytimes. Long time no see, long time no talk. How are you? I hope you're good. This is Stephanie. I'm a brand new YouTuber based in Abuja, Nigeria, West Africa. And this is my channel, Evermore 1993 as one word, YouTube channel. How are you doing? Missed you guys. Well, we've been trying to add more segments to the channel, so the prep time has been a lot more, hence why this is coming to you at this wonderful time. Hope you've been soaking up all of our previous episodes whilst waiting for new episodes. If you haven't, what are you waiting for? Go to the Evermore 1993 as one word, type that in your search button as one word, Evermore 1993, and you see my channel. Okay, type it in, get on the channel, subscribe, watch all our offerings, our YouTube shorts, our YouTube longs, watch every one of them, press the like button, share, comment, subscribe, invest in this brand. We're going places. Join on the band, join on the brand, and get yourself up to speed for this new episode of Movie Reviews. Right, on today's episode of Movie Reviews, we will be reviewing an American film named Devotion. Now, Devotion came out in 2022. This is the second part of this review and story time. For the first part, check out our page Evermore 1993 as one word YouTube channel. You'll get the first part. This is the second part of the movie review for Devotion, the American 2022 Netflix movie. He looked down on he didn't show respect and regard for the leadership and authority of his friend. If you're in Nigeria, you know this thing called C finish. He exhibited C finish with the guy, sort of. Because if he wasn't his friend in charge, he wouldn't have done what he did, because he knows it would have gotten him fired or at least suspended. But because he was his friend, thought, I can do it now. He's still my friend. He's not anything big, but he's your friend when you guys are together. Now he's the one in charge of a mission. You cannot treat it the same. I've always said this, that love has to have priorities. It has to have boundaries. It has to have respect. It has to have honor, value. If it doesn't have those things, it's not really love. If you disrespect the person you claim to love, you have no value for the person. If you have no respect, if you do not understand boundaries, I cannot do this, I don't do this, and you respect that, you honor that. If you can't do that, then what exactly is your love? What are you loving on? What do you mean when you say you love someone? So I think he really disrespected the guy in that position, and he then had an entitled mentality about it. He thought the guy shouldn't have reported the truth. He came telling the guy, how can you do this? How can you tell them I was insubordinate? But you kind of were, though. If you weren't, nobody will say you were, and he's not the only one who has to report on the mission. Every other person who were on the mission, they all reported the same thing, the truth. And the truth means you disrespected and did not honor the order of your leader. So he kind of tried to guilt trip Tom, and Tom fell for it, because I do believe Tom was really, really into him as a friend. Tom really liked Jesse, so he would honestly do anything for Jesse at this point. So even though Tom was right for reporting what really happened, we still see Tom trying to go make amends by gathering the guys to help them twitch a little bit what they said happened. But it really didn't help. Jesse kept feeling like he wasn't doing enough. And I do believe that these kind of friendships are the kind that drain you, because in their eyes you're not doing enough, because you are not enough to begin with for them. You're not the problem, they are. But they try to spin it on you, the emotional blackmail, begins and you begin to feel like you're not enough, and it begins to spread to other aspects of your life. It's an emotional thing and a mental thing. And at that point, I kind of was more worried for Tom because he seemed unguarded with Jesse. No matter how much you love somebody, your rules, your boundaries, your mentality on subjects, the pillars that mold your life, the mental pillars that mold your life should never be off. There should be nobody that comes in your life and you off the motion sensors for them. Nobody. If anything, that's the minute it should be on. That way, any bullshit, you sense it straight away and you cut off, or you fix it, you deal with it. But for some reason, he really liked Jesse to the point that even things like as simple as being able to say the truth, Jesse was willing to attack that character trait in him of being able to say the truth no matter what it costs him or costs anybody. Jesse attacked that and he was okay with it. I would have cut off from that moment and let him know, you did the wrong thing. You should have obeyed the orders. I was put in charge. At that point, I was not your friend. I was your leader. You should have obeyed. Even if, yes, you got the second bridge burned, it was instructions we were working with. You could have gotten yourself killed. You could have gotten us killed. It was dangerous what you did. It was reckless what you did. You should have obeyed. And since you didn't obey, you should suffer the consequences for not obeying. And insubordination, non-promotion, that's the consequence. So deal with it. Love you still though. That would have been my personal response. Because I won't change my mentality, my character for you. I won't belittle myself for you. I won't break down character traits that I took years to build up to make me a better person just so you can be happy. But I guess Mr. Tom didn't think the same. So either way, Mr. Brown didn't even accept or appreciate the effort he and the guys put in, so he just left. That was the end of that scene. And so we see the black sailors on the ship send a representative to Mr. Jesse with a gift, a watch, just thanking him for representing them and for proving that they can go all the way. And it serves as some kind of uplifting moment for him after the whole insubordination thing. So he smiles when he gets the gift and he thanks the representative from the black sailors on the ship. And so the next point of call is the fact that as they had bombed the two bridges that China was using to get, supplies of armor to the North Koreans, the Chinese wanted to retaliate on that. So they stormed their site, their army site on the ground, and pretty much almost killed the entire American army. So upon, hearing of that, the leader of these naval aviators, takes them to this place on their jets to help the army people by reducing how much advantage the Chinese have, So they're flying on planes, they're shooting at the Chinese from up in the air into the trees and bushes and the snow and whatnot. So it does help. The Americans can rise now and fight fair square, and the Chinese are running, so it helps. But as they succeed, one of the flyers realizes that Jesse's plane has been butchered by a bullet, so it's losing some kind of liquid, and he figures out that it's gas that is leaking. So I guess because of the level of technology at the time, there were no pull-out buttons. These jets, fighter jets now have pull-out buttons where you can evacuate yourself instantly from your chair out of the plane whilst it goes on to be destroyed, and you can be saved, and with that your parachute shoots up and you're able to fly to safety or sway in the air to safety. But then there were no such things, so the method for him, since the jet was losing fuel or gas rather, was to pretty much destroy the plane, and he couldn't destroy it without being in it. So he had to fire the missiles and the rockets that he had into some empty mountain and bush, and pretty much dismantle everything that came or was mounted onto the plane, and then crash land on the ground. This was the plan, and it was snowing at the time in the place where they were. So he proceeds to do this, but he's supposed to come out of the plane when he's crash landed. That way they can then shoot at the plane to destroy it and prevent enemy army from getting hold of the plane and learning about the plane to use against them and whatnot. But he's not getting out of the plane, and everybody else is hovering around where he crash landed, waiting for him to get out of the plane. That way they can fire rockets at it to destroy it, and he's not getting out, and Tom is getting worried. So Tom then figures out, wait, he's stuck in the plane, that's why he's not getting out of the plane, and the nose of the plane is already on fire. Okay, so he doesn't have much time to be alive in this plane. So what does Tom do? He does a very heroic thing. This guy was a friend to the end. It's one of these rare films where a white man comes through for a black person in such a cool way, putting himself in danger so many times, making it clear to the world that this is my friend, I don't care what color he is. This is one of those rare films, and it's so nice to see such films, because a lot of the times, I know it's not their fault, but a lot of the race related films show every white against every black. So it's always nice for those in-betweeners that tell us that, you know what, as much as yes, the racism was thick and was heavy and all those films are not lying, there were a few exemptions amongst the whites. There were whites that stood up for black people, that stood up against fellow white people and said, we don't supposed to do this. Racism is wrong. There were whites that didn't have slaves. There were whites that freed their slaves, bought them their freedom, gave them their own lives, gave them their own homes, their own plantations, sent their children to the same school as their own kids, made sure they were set up for life, protected them from racism. There were a few whites that did this too. So would it be nice to tell one side of the story only? No, we should tell the full story. And when we are being disgruntled, we know what area to angle it at. That way, these people don't feel like, damn, so all I did was nothing. Because they did something, and it counts for something, and it should be appreciated and honored and regarded. So he does the dumbest thing. He literally destroys his own plane and crash lands as well in the very same spot, just to go find out if Jesse's okay. And so when he lands, he finds out that Jesse is stuck in the plane. The literal nose of the plane, the forehead of the plane that shows all the signs and all the buttons and whatnot, literally crashed and is piercing into the legs and the bones of Jesse Brown. So he's in immense pain. All this while the nose of the plane is on fire. So it's a snowing environment, so he uses the snow. He, meaning Tom, uses the snow to put out the fire, and then comes to try and help Jesse lift up the nose of the plane, the front of the plane that is really piercing into his legs, and there's no lifting this thing. It's literally stuck into his boat. Like, how much pain he would have been in, because this is the 1950s, so this was real steel and metal they used to build these planes, guys. The heaviest of the heaviest. This is the time when crude oil, the land was really mined for these minerals, and they used them in the rawest form possible. So we're talking tons of sizes, like the size in tons. We're talking of steel that is steel, not fake, original. So this is weighing on his legs. There's no way out. He can't shake, he can't move. And it's snowing. He's freezing. He doesn't have like weather protection gear on. His head is exposed. His ears are exposed. He doesn't even have, I don't think he had gloves on. Yeah, he didn't have gloves on. So the weather is not nice, neither is his position. So everything was really built to kill this guy. So Tom tries for a while. Rescue operations comes through the helicopter to try and help. They fire extinguish the fire. They're trying to use an axe to break through the door side of the plane to get Jesse out. But before they can do that, Jesse gives Tom a last message for his wife, and he dies. He dies right there in the plane in the cold, and just curved in one corner, feeling cold and just in pain. So Jesse died, and the Chinese were already closing in, so they had to helicopter out of there. They couldn't even take his body. And Tom like makes a promise to the dead Jesse, like, I'll come back for you, like I'll come back to take your body. And so he helicopters out with the rescue mission person, and on getting back he realizes that the team says, the leaders say they can't go back for Jesse's body because the entire mountain area has been surrounded by Chinese people who have probably taken his body, so Tom is really sad and everything, and now they have to go bomb the plane, that way the Chinese don't get their hands on the plane. So and Tom is not even allowed to make that trip because now he's emotionally attached and they don't want him doing anything crazy. So he stays back on the carrier while his teammates go off to carry out the mission, and he's really in stitches, you guys. He's not happy. He's crying. This movie had a lot of men crying, and I tried to show that with the pictures because I think the world tries to convince men that they don't have tears anymore, and that's ridiculous. They're allowed to cry as much as women are. They're allowed to be emotional. They're allowed to not always be strong. They're allowed to lean on somebody. So I like that this film showed them being really in love with each other and rooting for each other and being sad if anything happened to each other, fighting for each other, being there for each other. And so Tom is crying whilst the rest of the team goes off to carry out the last mission. And so that's takes us to 1 year after, where the country of the United States is honoring Mr. Tom for his bravery in going back to get Jesse, and Jesse is posthumously also honored. His photo is there, his wife is invited. Besides, man, they were cruel. They didn't even send nobody to tell her her husband was dead. They literally put a letter describing him dead on her doorpost. Like, that part was cruel. How you tell a woman who's married with a kid that her husband is dead? And you tell her that by some letter. No personnel there to tell her, comfort her. That was a bit cruel of them, but that's how she found out that her husband was dead. So as she's coming back, she finds the letter, she reads it right there on the doorstep, and she just falls down to the stairs and starts crying. Her friend is comforting her as well. So 1 year later, of course, she boards a plane all the way to Washington, D.C. to get this honorarium for her husband in posthumous. So right there is the first time she's seen Tom after the whole situation. And after Tom is honored and they take photos with the then president, Tom finally approaches her to speak with her and apologize for not being there for Jesse. And she's just telling him, you know what, you did your job. You're not there to save him. You at least were there for him, and I've heard of what you did, and I just want to say thank you for all you did for my Jesse, And he then proceeds to tell her Jesse's last words, which were I can't remember her name now. Tell my wife how much I love her. And so, from there, I think their friendship blossoms, and I think that's the end of the film. They proceed to show us the real Jesse Brown. Wow, it's crazy, and the real Tom, and them in their planes and everything, and his real wife, and even their children after them, their grandchildren, and how Tom, even in old age, was still advocating for North Korea to return Jesse Brown's body. It seemed it was North Korea that took possession of the body and probably buried it there in North Korea, and they wanted it excavated and brought back to the United States. So Mr. Tom has been, moving in the political Capitol Hill to see that laws are made, negotiations are made with North Korea to try and return Jesse Brown's body. He succeeds to an extent in that he's allowed to go into North Korea to at least see where Jesse Brown was buried, but he's not allowed to take the body back. Even upon his death, his family and the children, I guess the surviving family of Jesse Brown, are friends now, and they're both calling on the government to do what it takes to bring back Jesse Brown's body. They even show all the children now, the daughter and the son, the grandson, the granddaughter of both Jesse Brown and Tom. Wow, it's crazy. They were really close. All this really happened, So yeah, that's the end of the film, guys. I really liked this one. I really did. It showed the devotion was in the friendship. It wasn't even in the planes. It was just in the friendship that Tom fought to have with Jesse Brown. He even fought Brown to be his friend. Brown wouldn't have it. Brown thought he was just a white dude. But even Tom had to convince Brown that he was not just a white dude. Many times when people would try to be racist to Brown, it would be Tom that would be up in triggers, trying to fight, box, trying to defend Brown. Brown would just want to walk away. He would really want to avoid any altercation as much as possible. His way of dealing with any racist attempt at him was to just scoff it off and hide pretty much and try to get away from it without even saying a word. That was his reaction and his strategy. But it doesn't always work, because some people are deliberately mean and would want to stay on your case until they get a response. So there was a point that Tom actually punched someone for him, and he felt angry that Tom would go to that extent, and Tom didn't understand. Like, I'm trying to defend you, I'm trying to help you, and he was like, no, I can do it all myself. I've been fighting this fight all my life. I'm okay alone. He was used to being alone, but so he felt weird when Tom wanted to join in. But at a point, even he had to admit that he could tell that Tom was sincere. So I think the name Devotion really spells out just how committed Tom was to being the friend of Jesse Brown. And I can't lie, I cried when I saw Jesse Brown die. It just seemed like such a wasteful way for him to die. If only the technology then had caught up to the point it is now, where he could have evacuated from the plane without even meeting the ground at all. I wish the planes then were built to this capacity. I wish they had this knowledge then. To be honest, Jesse Brown wouldn't have died. It's just that was as much knowledge as they knew then, and that's the knowledge with which they built the plane. And it's the faulty design of that plane that caused his death. There was also another death on the film that also I blame on the design of the jets. And I can't blame the people who designed it. They were even geniuses to have figured it out to that point in 1950s. I mean, it's a really long time from now. And they had figured it out to that point, and I do applaud them. I just honestly wish that they had the knowledge that the designers of today's jets have, and which prevents a whole lot more deaths than were recorded back in the day. Then many of those people wouldn't have died. They would have lived long, old, and died old and everything, passed on knowledge, really defended their countries for long, and fulfilled their dreams and their loves, because at the end of the day, they really like flying these planes and whatnot and defending their country, So I'm not happy with how he died. It seemed like such a simple but yet painful way for him to die, and it's just not right that North Korea is holding on to his body. I mean, give his body back to his family. Let them have closure. Let them mourn him. Let them put him on the ground where they desire. Let him be on the soil for which he died. He suffered for this soil. He defended this soil. The least we could all do is give him this opportunity to be on that soil, to be buried there, So I'm also using this opportunity to plead with the government and whoever is in charge of this kind of negotiations. I know it might mean probably giving North Korea something in exchange, but I don't know what it is. But I do think Jesse Brown ensign should be returned back to American soil. He should be buried with his family, with his wife that he loved till his death, and honestly should have a great closure to the amazingness that was his existence. And I'm so proud to know that he existed. I'm glad for stories like this, because we get to know that in the midst of all that racism, these were blacks that prevailed, that proved that we were not just slaves. That we are as smart if not smarter than the whites, and we can hold our own just like they can. God didn't discriminate. We are all equal in His sight, and we can all do and undo. All things are possible to all of us, not just white people. So to any whites watching this, I hope you feel proud that there was somebody like Tom who existed to prove that y'all are not monsters, that y'all have hearts, and some of y'all are good people. Hopefully the majority at this point in time, but we don't know for sure. But at least some of y'all are worth the fight, are worth the love, and are good people. I hope any white person watching this, listening to this, can feel proud and thankful that somebody like Tom existed. Yes, and for every black, I hope you can feel proud and feel like you can accomplish anything you hope for, because Jesse Brown did it in the hardest of times. If he could do it, then you can too. He was black. He suffered it all. He got the smears and the eye contact and the hateful speech. There were moments where there was a notebook he carried around on which he wrote every hateful word anybody has ever said to him. You all need to watch the film to see how he deals with all that hate and all that venom that people spew at him. It's sad, but honestly, unblameable way, if there's such a word, of how he deals with that pain, how he deals with those arrows, that venom. It's sad, but you can't really beat down on it. You can't really say, what is that? You can't insult it, because you understand to an extent that he was doing what he had to do to keep himself alive mentally, to stay ashore mentally, and not drown in this huge sea that was trying to swallow him up, man. He did a lot, and I'm proud, so happy to know about him. So thankful to the people who made this film. I hope they feel proud. Everyone who was a part of this film. This is a black girl from Nigeria saying thank you so much for making the Devotion film. I'm super grateful that you all made this movie, because now I know, and knowing makes my life so much easier and makes me attaining my goals in life a lot much doable, a lot much closer. My dreams don't seem so far away now, because he did it at times when it would have been okay if he didn't have hope, because there was already a lot killing hope around. It would have been okay if he didn't have a dream, if he didn't make any ends meet, if he didn't succeed, but he wanted to do the impossible in his time, and he did. So it's a huge encouragement to me as a black person, as an African residing in Africa. And I'm thankful to him, I'm thankful to his family, I'm thankful to Tom and his family for letting them make this film. I'm thankful to everyone who was a part of this film. Thank you. God bless you all so freaking much. And to you listening, please, 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 whether you've watched any films I've done so far or not, this is definitely one that I would recommend for sure. Go watch Devotion, the 2022 Netflix movie. It's a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece. The box office might not say so, but I say so. It is a masterpiece. It's worth the watch. And worth this review and story time. And we've come to the end of it. I don't want to push this any further than we have already pushed it. So we'll end here, and just want you to know, keep serving the purposes of God, keep serving the purposes of humanity, and keep loving on you. There is no better you, there's no second you. You are the only you that there will ever be, the original you. Keep being the original you. Do not be the photocopy of anybody else. You are worth it. You are loved, you are liked, you are perfect. Perfection is not far from you. You are it, baby. God bless you. Have a lovely day. Share, like, comment, subscribe to the page Evermore 1993 as one word YouTube channel. Once again, I'm Stephanie, a brand new YouTuber based in Abuja, Nigeria, and on this page we post movie reviews, movie story times, event rundowns, love gist, life, and so on and so forth. Join on and encourage and build up the brand. You will be built up too. Have a beautiful day. And yeah. Oh yeah, so this is the end of part 2. We filmed this in part 1 and 2, so this is the end of part 2. Yeah.